absolutely perfect.
This is the Rugby Odds, where an unlikely pundit panel of a wordsmith, a WWE legend, a rugby star, and a supermodel scour the globe, seeking best bets and bad behavior. Are you not entertained? Why, thank you. Yeah, thank you. That is great. And you know what? I could use it today. I could use the applause, the backing, because I had an abysmal game of rugby at the University of Buffalo alumni rugby game playing against the undergrads. I was awful, but it was fun. And we got a lot of fun here today. And all you got to do is look in the sponsor opportunity green room to see why. It's WWE Hall of Famer turned rugby advocate John Bradshaw Layfield, King Gift Egbelu, the Yogi Berra of rugby. And look at the slate. Look at the Your Company Name Here slate. It's chock full of goodies. We also have George Hook calling in from Dublin. So let's not waste time. Let's bring in the guys. 49-32, fellas. 49-32. John, you were easily the best. You were 18-9. Gift, you were 16-11. I brought up the back of the bus. I was 15-12. But you guys carried the load, John. Specifically, you did with your MLR picks and your 5 best bets thingy that you started out doing.
Five best bets thingy?
Yeah.
5 best bets thingy?
Thingy.
That's what you've named it?
What are we calling it? You know, I think it's catchy.
Is English your second language?
And King, what's the new setting? What do you got? Tell us about it.
I mean, look, you know, sometimes people kept telling me that the background in my old place is just too much. So I was like, hey, you know what? We're just going to shift everything around. We're just going to go to the beach and we're just going to be out here and we're just going to have the availability.
All right. Well, we got about 5 seconds left in this segment before we bring in George. So let's get down to the picks were great. But John, talk about your 5 best bets.
5 best bets. I started doing this in baseball just for fun. We're killing it right now. We're hitting over 60%. We're up 35, 36 units, something right now, whenever the taping is. Just doing it for fun and having a bunch of winners. So doing the same thing with rugby. This past week, I was 5-0 on MLR picks. Going to post the betting slips and all that for verification, so you know we're not just promoting something. And this week, we're going to do 5 best bets, rugby bets, for the rugby odds. It'll come out either Thursday or Friday sometime, depending on when the odds come out for the games.
Right, because when we shoot this, we have different odds, and the odds are often so much more advantageous later in the week.
And you're odd.
You know, that's really not. I'm trying here. I am trying desperately here.
No, you're not. No, you're
it's
not.
hard for me to focus on this show while I'm still reveling in how good I was on the rugby pitch in Buffalo. But Gift, you got an observation from the
Lying
week?
like a rat beat. Yeah,
like
look.
rat beat. Yeah. Playing against a bunch of decrepit other old guys.
No, we played against the undergrads, you jerk.
So just first timers who don't ever get a chance.
Yeah,
to
first
play.
timers.
Right.
Yeah,
And in Buffalo, not
yeah.
the most athletic, probably.
You get a bunch of frat boys that aren't good enough to play on the football team, and so you play them in rugby.
We're UB Rugby and John Layfield sucks.
Yeah, put that on the show.
Yeah, Gift, do you have any takeaways from the weekend?
Yeah, man, I have questions on Seattle. Like a team that's unable to score 50 on the anthem gives me question. A team that's not able to get past 30, I don't even care what your reason. You can't tell me you played your B squad. You can't tell me that you were trying to take it easy.
Both of those things were true.
No less than 50. No,
And they also
40,
had 2 yellow cards.
Even worse. Even worse. Once again, should be able to score 40 at minimum with a breeze on the anthem. So I don't think Seattle is one of my dark horses for a championship anymore. At least definitely not for the West.
Why are they a dark horse? They're one of the best, the top 3 teams in the league.
Houston is the leader. Houston is doing exactly what they're supposed to do. They are dominating who they're supposed to dominate, and they are beating exactly the competition that they're going to face in the playoffs. Seattle is limping against the anthem.
John, do you have an observation from last weekend?
Yeah, Chicago. Look, New England didn't have Reese McDonald. They didn't have their kicker available for the most of the game. They were not quite the New England team.
They didn't have Conradi, and they didn't have Jacobson either.
Chicago could have beat them in the game before that. They had a couple tries. All they had to do is dot the ball down. They didn't. The ball carrier didn't realize where they were. Certainly would have changed the flow of the game in the last game. Chicago's a good team. I'm not sure if they're better than New England. They split games, but Chicago, Miami, and Dallas Those are good teams right now that teams are going to have a hard time dealing with in the near future.
I will say, as a longtime Chicago hater, and I have constantly said, talented team with no winning culture, they've now started to turn the corner. They're 4 in a row now in wins. It looks like they're finally understanding the rhythm of all those New York and Canada players that they had gotten from 2 years ago. It finally seems like they're finally getting it all together now. So I got to give them credit where credit is due. Because
same with Dallas. Dallas is starting to win games that are close to Miami's not still. Miami still hadn't figured out how to win. But those are some pretty good teams.
About Dallas lost to San Diego, but Dallas got 4 tries, so they got that bonus point, and they were within 7. So that was a 2-point pickup for them in a loss, whereas San Diego didn't even get the 4th try, so they only got the 4 points. And when you're adding up all these points, Dallas is right there. So that was the best way to have a loss. Also sending a message on a big day in San Diego history, because they finally had Matt Gitto on the match day 23. He came in, he hit a conversion and a penalty goal for a total of 5 points. Interesting to see how he plays out as a 39-year-old at fly half.
And what kind of idiot European system do we have where we have points? How about one team wins and one team loses?
John is now muted. He's just tried to undermine the entire rugby landscape.
Speaking truths.
Let's take a break and then bring in Mr. George Hook.
Need a great price on a new vehicle? Sheehy makes it easy. Easy Price shows you our lowest prices on the Mid-Atlantic's largest selection. Find your best price online or at any of our 31 dealerships.
It's easy at Sheehy. Sheehy.com.
If you're in New York City and want to watch some great rugby, have some great food, and some great times, go to the world's best rugby pub, the Pig and Whistle on West 36th Street.
I'm Khalil Adegoke of the UB rugby team, and I watched the rugby odds, and I don't think Gift is a Nigerian.
Thank you. High five.
And once again, we have the pleasure, the honor of welcoming in George Hook. George, welcome back to the Rugby
George
Odds.
Hook is here. George Hook is here. Yes.
George, let's get right into it. 82,000 fans, packed house, Croke Park, Leinster, the Northampton Saints. What an event. It wasn't an international match between Ireland and England. It was a match between 2 professional clubs.
Now, I told you last week that I thought Northampton were going to be difficult, and they were awful, right? Now, what happened, I don't know. But they couldn't catch the ball, they couldn't pass the ball, they couldn't kick the ball. Leinster then comfortably go 20 points clear pretty well. And then, with 60 seconds left on the clock, we're staring at the biggest upset forever. Northampton are going to win.
Oh, man.
They're capping the line and they didn't get away with it. Now, what's the interesting thing I wanted to talk about? If you think of somebody like me who's been watching this great game for 70 years, right? The number 10, the fly half, and in your game, if I may refer to your game, American football, the quarterback. The quarterback and the out half have always been the heroes of the 2 oval ball games. They've been the guys that they're the names, they're the big guys paid, or in the amateur days, the heroes. What we saw on Saturday is the increasing influence of the number 9. And we saw Leinster win because of a virtuoso performance by Jamison Gibson Park at number 9. Because in fact, the number 10 had a bad match. Conversely, Northampton scrum half and England scrum half had a nightmare. So we are looking at a subtle change in our game, and there's no equivalent of football to a scrum half, American football. We're looking at the influence of the number 9 being increasingly more important than the number 10. Why? 1, he's kicking the ball more than the number 10. Two, he's passing the ball 80% of the time to somebody other than the number 10. So the influence of the number 10 has been reduced, and the influence of number 9 has been increased. And we saw that point over last Saturday and Sunday. Toulouse won because they had the best scrum half in the world in the shape of Dupont. So what's happening is interesting, and this weekend showed it up, I think, in large measure.
George, I'm a huge baseball fan. My Texas Rangers were fortunate enough to win the World Championship last year, and we almost got Shohei Ohtani, who's the biggest name in baseball since Babe Ruth. He doesn't quite speak good English yet. In Texas, it wouldn't have mattered. We'd have given him a cowboy hat, a truck, boots, and we'd have called him Texan. We don't care. Does Ireland care that Leinster has a bunch of Kiwis, not a bunch, a couple Kiwis that are playing for them? They consider them like we do. There's one of us playing on our team, or does Ireland really wish that you had your own homegrown players?
Well, as somebody who was savaged on Twitter for daring to suggest that some South African fella had come on his holiday and was promptly picked for Ulster, my position's pretty clear on this. I think to play for Ireland, you should be Irish. Now, I accept that if you can get an Irish passport because your grandmother was Irish, then you should be entitled to play for Ireland if your grandmother's Irish. But if you come here with no connection whatsoever and just become a rugby tourist, now it's not just Ireland, it's the regulations on on what's representing a country in rugby are for the birds.
George, do you consider the difference between, because I do too, I'm 100% in agreement with you about the Irish national team. I think it's modern day colonization. When you're picking players and bringing them in, all you're doing is robbing these Pacific Islands of players, in my opinion. What about club games? What about Leinster and club games? Do you differentiate between the Irish national team and, say, Leinster?
Yes. You have to, because Leinster's just a club. So, like, if Harlequins, the Stormers, I did, like, you look at the Toulouse team last Sunday, how many Frenchmen were on the Toulouse team? So, club, of course, again, an incredibly valid comment from you, if you don't mind me flattering you. It's a totally valid point between your national team and your club side. Leicester can pick who the hell they like. And they've got a ton of money because Ireland has handled this whole professional thing so well. If you've got some kind of ranking list of good buys, Gibson Park and Lowe are just fantastic.
Bargains of the century.
Gibson Park almost single-handedly won the match. I mean, Lowe got the tries, but he only had to fall over the line. Just to look at those tries.
So, George, you talked about obviously the 82K at Croke Park and Ireland being super excited about it. You know, we're looking at Premiership #1, URC #1. Do you feel that if that game had been either two Premiership teams together, or even more importantly, do you think it would have been the same? Or do you feel like this game is an indicator that maybe the European Championships have a value, that people want to see these teams being able to cross over, and we're looking at more #1 matches or 2-2 matches versus just any random team going against each other? Or maybe do you feel like this is just a inter-island, rivalry that's happening?
I don't think there would be another game in the European Championship. Like, you wouldn't have got 82,000 people in England, Scotland, Wales, or France, or even South Africa. I mean, South Africa, there's nobody at the games in South Africa. So this is because it's Ireland. They sold 82,000 tickets in 30 hours. Now, what that, like, we are natural followers. The same guys would have been in Croke Park watching the rugby, as a week later we're in Croke Park watching Dublin play Gaelic football, or a week later Ireland playing soccer. We just are very good for the British. And I use the word British advisedly to cover all its constituent nations. The British are not quite the same followers, and it's not their gig. Was this is for us. Like, I'm a huge believer in history, tradition, all those kinds of things. We've always watched our teams. Now, I was a coach of Connacht, who were an interprovincial team, but before Europe arrived, before money arrived, before anything, the quintessential, I remember there was a loudspeaker announcement at the Connacht game, will the mother who left her 4 children in the ground please come back because they're making too much noise. So 300 people at a game. So it has changed dramatically. You got to say that, for the better.
So just to follow up on what Gift asked you, so if the Premiership were to be absorbed by the URC, there's no way in hell this game would have that luster.
No. Absolutely not. I mean, the Premiership has not developed a spectator base. If it had developed a spectator base, they wouldn't be going bust.
Last question, George. Can Connacht win at Thomond Park versus your Munster men?
Well, I don't think so. I don't think, I have a foot in both camps. I coach Connacht, I'm Cork, I'm Munster to the core. But Munster and Thomond Park are a different ball of wax to Munster anywhere else. And you've got to experience Thomond Park. There's an atmosphere there which helps Munster, there's no question about it. I don't think Connacht are great. I mean, Connacht haven't had a great season. I'd comfortably back Munster to win.
And George, fans can go see Munster play at Thomond Park, courtesy of Irish Rugby Tours. All they have to do is go to Irish Rugby Tours, and you guys can figure out their trips for them. Isn't that right?
Yeah, absolutely. From anywhere in the globe.
That is great. That is great. And on that note, we have to end this segment for now. But George, thank you once again for coming on. George Hook,
George.
Everybody.
Yeah,
George
Hook was here. George Hook was here.
Yeah.
Here.
You need your cleats? You need them tomorrow? If you order today by 3 p.m. New York time or noon LA time, they can have them to you tomorrow. Young, old, male, female, if you're playing on turf, if you're playing on grass, if you're playing in the rain, you're playing in the heat, they've got you covered. RugbyNow.com. Go there now. Hey, U.S. fans, you can tune into every match live on Flow Rugby. How do we know that? Because we're on there all the time. And we are back. And that was another great segment with George. Got some history.
He's a
got
champion.
some rugby.
George likes our questions, not yours.
George
man.
likes our questions really well. He
Listen,
really
that's
well.
okay.
You
That's
send us
okay.
questions that are the dumbest things I think I've ever read.
Okay.
I mean, if you had a book that said dumbest things ever written, your questions would be like all in them.
No, it's not about who gets credit here. It's about the show and the entertainment, and that's fine. If I have to be the fall guy, I'll be that. I'll be that martyr.
You ought to
okay?
be the captain of the Titanic swim team.
Let's go to picks. Let's start with the URC, which is in week 16 of 18. They're down to the nitty-gritty, so things matter. So teams that are in the playoff hunt will not be benching their players. And there's a bunch of teams that are in that thick of it, separated. I think there's like 5 points separating the 6 teams that are going for that 8th spot. John, who do you like in the URC?
Give me Leinster against the Ospreys. Leinster, I think that they felt disappointed with just winning by a few points in front of 82,000 people. And I think Leinster is going to boat race these boys.
That's a lot of points.
I don't care. It's Leinster. And if Leinster wants to score that many points, they're going to score whatever they want. And
All
I think
right,
they're motivated because I think they feel like they did not beat their team that as well as they should have last week.
All right, Gift.
Yo, I'm taking Lions going up against Cardiff at home. Lions took a big hit one against Munster a couple weeks back. Look at them now to be able to make that up, find their way back into the playoff runs, and absolutely keep that 14.5 points up against Cardiff. I look for the Lions to win this one.
All right. I'm looking at Edinburgh laying 26.5 to Zebre. And I know, we were all high on Zebre and they looked great at the beginning of the year. And then they kind of just absolutely disappeared. But 26.5 seems like way too many points for me. Even though they're playing in Edinburgh, I'm taking Zebre with the points. I think Edinburgh will win easily, but not by 26. Let's go to the MLR. Come back stateside. John, who do you like in the MLR?
Dallas against LA. LA's started off looked like they were going to be very good, and they're not. They've had some injuries. They've had a lot of problems, but give me Dallas -6 to win this game.
Gift, as your background changes, who do you got now?
Hey, look, it's change lets you know that we got realness. And my change is my support now for Chicago over Old Glory. I think Old Glory, even though they got a win, it was a struggle win. And I think Chicago is legitimately on a roll. The Windy City is about to show out again. -6 points, cover, win.
All right. I'm going to pick on the anthem again. I think Houston will win by 22 points or more on the road. And again, ladies and gentlemen, we may change our picks at the end of the week when odds come out from other sports books. So you got to check in. Specifically, you got to check out what John's putting out there because he is up to speed up to the last minute. Let's skip down to the Premiership. That's in week 17 of 18. So again, these games matter. John, who do you like in the Premiership?
I think Saracens realizes that the time is ticking away on their great stars, and they want to win a championship. So give me Saris, -4.5 against Bristol.
Gift?
Hey, look, man, Northampton is licking their wounds from last week against Leinster, and they're about to show all the anger up against Gloucester. Look for them to absolutely demolish Gloucester and be able to get at least one of these championships under their belt.
I'm going to go back to that Saris match, but I'm picking Bristol, John. And you know why? I guess not. Let's move on. Let's go to the top 14. Week 23 of 26. 23 of 26. Ridiculous. How many games they play? Who do you like, John?
How about Bordeaux -6.5 against La Rochelle?
Gift.
I don't think Racing 92 has a chance in the playoffs, but look for Racing 92 to hold it down at home against Bayonne. But they've been disappointing all season. So I don't have the highest hope for them. They upset me significantly.
All right. Okay. I'm going to go Castra -6.5 at home versus Montpellier. We got to take a quick break and we'll come back with Super Rugby, the NRL, JRLO, and our pick of the week after this. From New York City comes America's longest running and most popular rugby show. The biggest names in Major League Rugby, MLR highlights, and big match previews. Rugby Wrap-Up presents MLR Weekly, made in New York City. And we're back, and we are going down to Super Rugby. John, who do you like in Super Rugby?
That's Holly saying we like the Hurricanes. Rock me like a hurricane. How about that?
That is fabulous. Gift.
I'm all ready for this all day, and this one is going to be going down to what could be the best worst game in the league this year, which is Fijian Drua versus Western Force. Western Force got their one surprise win, which was shocking, but also the Crusaders suck. Thank you, Matt. And I'm giving this one to the Fijian Drua. They might be on the road. They might be going into Australia, but I just like the Fijians more than I do the Western Force.
First of all, the Crusaders don't suck. The Crusaders have an all-star team on the disabled list, or the injured list. So they don't suck. If they're healthy, they're good.
Yeah. Everybody has an excuse.
All right.
You realize they suck. This year they suck. You don't have 15 injuries.
Okay. Anyway, all right. They had Lee
New Zealand, and they have missed on everything.
They had Lee Halfpenny. Lee Halfpenny, who's 155 years old, making his debut for the Crusaders this weekend. He took his first penalty shot. He missed it, but you know, he's a good player, but they're going with him. He's an older guy. There's no way in hell he starts on or even gets on the match day 23 of a healthy Crusaders team. But you're right. Everybody's got injuries. I'm a little bit injured.
He said they suck. He didn't say they have. He did not say everybody has injuries. He said they suck.
Well, he doesn't know what he's talking about then, because they don't suck if they're healthy.
Said he was right. You just said he was right.
John's muted. I have to make another pick because he took my Hurricanes pick. So I'm going to go with the Reds minus 12.5 versus the Hurricanes. And we're going to have to unmute John to bring him back for his pick for the NRL. John, who do you like in the NRL?
How about them Crusaders sucking? I'm going to take the Manly Sea Eagles against the Dolphins. Dolphins is a stupid name. Manly Sea Eagles, that's a great name.
But they disappointed you last week, and you're going to go back to the well?
Doesn't matter. They're my team.
Oh my God. Oh, my God. Gift, who do you like?
Well, you know, once again, changes let you know what is real and what is not. At number 1 and number 2, NRL team, Storm versus Sharks. Sharks are absolutely top of the cage. Storm's trying to be able to show him, but the Sharks are dominating. Look for the Sharks to win this one. Even though the point spread is 3.5 for the Stormers, look for the Sharks to upset that and get the win.
I'm going with the West Tigers at home to get beaten badly by the Knights by 3.5. Knights minus 3.5 on the road favorites. Oh, boy, I can't believe it. We're going to have to say goodbye soon, guys, because it's time for our picks of the week. John, who do you like?
I'm going to double down on King Gift Egbelu. I'm going to go with Chicago as my pick of the week. I think Chicago is starting to come into form, and I think they got Old Glory coming in. Old Glory's getting some players back, but I think Chicago's going to boat race these boys at home. They're going to mollywop them. They're going to run them out of the park.
Gift?
Yo, I'm going back into to MLR with the champ, but I'm taking Miami versus Utah. This game, though I don't think would have been very interesting 2 weeks ago, and it barely scratches over. I think Miami is showing at least a spirit that they feel like they can win games, but I do believe that Utah is able to get this one, even though it's going to be on the road for them. But this at -4, it's really close one on that, but I do believe Utah has the advantage on this one.
Okay. I'm going to go with an over, and I'm going to go on the over with Sharks versus Benetton. Sharks at home. Hollywood Sharks versus Benetton in the over. On that note, I want to thank WWE Hall of Famer turned rugby icon John Bradshaw Layfield, King Gift Egbelu, the inventor of words / rugby Yogi Berra of rugby, George Hook, the Irish pundit, and thank you for tuning in. Please check out our other shows, including MLR Weekly, the College Rugby Wrap-Up. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube, join our weekly newsletter, and please join our American Red Cross blood donor team.
Oh, good grief. It's going to be breakfast, man, where King is from if you don't stop. Wrap up the show. It's midnight.